The Owls Club at Copperleaf is the second signature Ernie Els designed golf course in South Africa. The golf estate is just a 40-minute drive from the economic hub of Africa, Johannesburg. Gerhard Kutsia, Director of Quantum Long Driving, spoke to us about the sport, and Long Drive World Series CEO added his thoughts on the event.
Quantum Driving is the federation that runs the sport of long drive. Started out in South Africa and very quickly expanded its footprint globally. So we believe in developing the sport of long drive from a grassroots level up. Junior leagues, ladies, open division men, senior men, really penetrating all the different demographic groups that has an interest in golf. And the reason that we do that is that we believe this is the high energy, action-full, colourful, shorter version of the game, just like sevens in rugby or limited overs in cricket. So this adds the vibe, the colour, and it allows youngsters an entirely new element to pursue in golf. Joe Miller, of course, being the two-time World Long Drive champion. Joe Miller is also ambassador for the Long Drive World Series. Now, the World Series is 10 headline events throughout the world this year, and very proud now to align them with quantum driving to bring them to South Africa, and we hope to later in the year also take them to some of our other regions like Morocco and Canada. So the World Series features 16 of the top hitters in the world, guys the likes of Joe Miller, to come out to these regions where we want to grow the game. So bring the best guys out, show the people what it's all about, what the benefit brings to the greater game of golf and to sport development in the communities of the areas where we host these wonderful international events. So on the 13th of April 2018, these top boys will gather at the Gary Player Country Club at Sun City. And on the 10th hole, the par 5, we'll make it nice and pretty, put up some hospitality and create a real theatre environment, dances, fireworks, music, and then the boys will battle it out to see who will be the first ever Long Drive World Series South African champion.
Long Drive World Series is a long drive competition predominantly aimed at the elite of the sport. So we've taken all the best recognised stars currently and we put them in a head-to-head tournament, and we tour the world. So we have 10 tournaments this year, starting in Dubai next week, and then on to Mexico, and then to South Africa. When we were thinking of putting this all together, obviously the first point of call is you go and speak to the world champion and ask him if he's interested. And of course, if the world champion's interested, then he drags along all the other big stars of the sport. And predominantly what we want to do from that point is bring through the younger stars. That's the aim over the next year or two, is to try and find some guys in their late teens, early 20s that can carry on doing this for the next 15 years, and they can be the next Joe Miller or the next Ryan Steenberg or the next Tim Burke or whatever.
The charismatic, big-hitting Englishman Joe Miller sat down with Coastal Sports and spoke frankly about his success in the sport and where the sport of long drive is going.
Well, apart from the scenery, we're here promoting a long drive event that we have in April. So it's going to be the third stop, I believe, on the calendar this year, over in Sun City Resort at the Gary Player Golf Club. And it's going to be one hell of a time, and we're just, we're trying to set the standard a little bit here and show the guys what to expect. I don't know if it's me or I'm just emotionless, but when it comes to it, you're so in the mood and you're so in the zone sort of thing that you're not really concentrating on your emotions too much. I think that happens after in the bar area when you're 2 bottles of tequila down. But it's like I say, you're in. This is what we do for a living, and that's where we want to be. So you got to keep them emotions in check, that's for sure. But you can bet your life the adrenaline's pumping, and it's a great position to be in. Number one aspect to hitting the ball a long way is obviously club head speed. If you can produce a lot of club head speed, that's one thing. Number two is then obviously you have to control that and obviously get the ball out the middle of the driver face and get the ball going in a straight line. And that involves a hell of a lot of different technique. I could sit here and talk to you all day about the technique and the way what we adopt differently to a professional golfer or amateur golfer. There's a lot of different long drive techniques that we use, but number one is speed, and obviously number two is then controlling the ball flight and getting it going in a straight line. Everyone has their different sort of structures to these competitions, but basically, for instance, you might have 32 guys and it could be just a straight match play tournament. So, one-on-one, you have between 6 and 8 balls, again, depending on who's organising the event. but 3 minutes generally, 8 balls to hit, and it's obviously the longest one counts, and that's just the match play format. It obviously goes all the way through to the top 8, top 4, top 2 guys, the left, and again, just a straight knockout really. It has changed over the years, different sort of formats, but that's the general format. I mean, you have some. I mean, the grid is between 45 and probably 50 meters wide. So at that point, there is some sort of, escape if you want it. But I mean, what we're trying to do here, which is a bit different to, again, playing tournament golf, is we're trying to hit the perfect shot every single time. So, people, you got a draw and you got a fade, or you might have a slice. Or hook. Too much. It's not going to give you the optimum distance. What's going to give you the optimum distance is a ball going in a straight line. So even if you do have a slight draw or a slight fade, sort of by accident really, you're always going to go back and try and hit that straight shot, because that's the one that's going to give you the maximum rollout and the maximum distance. So yeah, there is some room for error, but really we're just trying to get it in a straight line, A to B. Basically, around the age of probably around 4 or 5, I probably picked up a golf club. It was a cut down 4-iron back then. My dad was a little bit of a golfer, played sort of just as a amateur, and he got me into golf, and sort of growing up, started taking it a bit more serious around 12, 13, become a member of my first golf club, and obviously just sort of developed as a normal golfer then, got pretty good standards, but there was always something in the background that I could always hit the ball a lot further than most, pretty much than anyone at that point, whether it be adults, juniors, whatever. So that was kind of a thing, but long drive wasn't known back then. Especially over in the UK, we didn't know about long drive. Eventually found out about the tournaments. There was a qualifying spot back home, which qualified you for the World Championships in Las Vegas. And kind of went along to that, didn't know nothing about it, just had a normal driver. Found out a little bit more, and then 2 years later, 2005 that would have been, ended up winning the European Championship, and just all sort of started from there and rolled on from there. Flew to Vegas, competed in the World Championships, and been doing it ever since. I mean, yeah, it is growing, and it's sort of accelerated a little bit over the. I mean, like I said, my first year was 2005. Obviously, won it in 2010. But really, in the last few years, due to companies coming on board and it getting more in the public eye through social media, streams and outlets, whatever it will be, all of a sudden it's starting to, you're starting to see it a lot more mainstream, and it's something that every golf club, if I turn up to a golf club, there's people sort of mentioning it, and I saw you do the long drive, I've seen you on Instagram, whatever it will be. So it's definitely growing, sort of virally there. And now, hopefully, with, like I say, with the World Long Drive Series and companies like Quantum Driving coming on board, we can get it more mainstream TV and really push it out in the public, because it's something that if you haven't seen it, when you do eventually catch on and see what it's all about, they love it, and it's like I say, it's growing quick. Yeah, so like you said, I think this is your standard driver. There's a certain amount of loft on this, about 10 degrees.
8 degrees.
8 degrees. So, I mean, basically, first of all, it starts with this. You have a slight difference in height. Okay, so all the golf clubs that we use are governed by the rules of golf. So this is a legal driver. You can use this in any tournament play, really, PGA Tour, European Tour, wherever it be. So you got the height difference there, so 48 inches. This is the max length you're allowed. This is also, like I say, 10 degrees. This driver comes in at 1. So we're using a lot more, like I say, technique to get the ball in the air if you've got a 1 degree driver. You can imagine the different types of things we have to employ. And again, just the shaft, that's a standard 1X. This is a triple X stiff. So it's basically taking it right to the extreme of what we're allowed, like I say, in tournament play and using it for long drive. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the time is spent for me most days is first thing in the morning is in the gym. Second in the afternoon, straight to the range, 2 or 3 hours, 200 or 300 golf balls at a time. Not all drivers, I like to play the game as well. So, start with just warming up with irons, get the feel for it, and then obviously probably 100, 150 golf drivers at that point. Probably 50 of them will be all out, some working on technique, movements, feelings, and then, like I say, 50 drivers probably towards the end of it, just flat out working on speed and trying to find the middle. Like I say, it starts first thing in the morning, so a healthy breakfast, very protein, sort of concentrating a lot on the protein and the healthy aspect. It's becoming it's always been a lifestyle for me, but I kind of adopted the whole gym. I was a personal trainer from a young age, I used to work in a gym, and so I've studied the whole nutritional part and the training part, and obviously the benefits to eating a healthy lifestyle. So, you know, a good breakfast, off to the gym, 2 hours in the gym, lifting weights, whatever it will be that day. You know, kind of split up the training a little bit. Again, I've always been sort of bodybuilding, powerlifting type of a trainer, so I've always stuck with that, and that's what I stick with even now for the golf. And that's 5-6 days a week. Again, obviously after that, replacing what we've burnt off in the gym or on the range, more protein, more healthy carbs, healthy fats, and just really, you know, taking it away from what people think is just a healthy lifestyle just for golf. But now I'm doing the long drive and the training, and really, you know, you have to subsidize that lifestyle somehow with the food. Okay, ball speed, club speed, obviously, is like I say, is number one. So that ranges from probably the lowest it will be when I'm sort of going full out is 150 miles an hour, upwards of 155, 156. Ball speed, again, depends on the golf ball you use, but 220 to 225, 226, 227. And longest distance I've ever hit in competition was 474 yards, which is 433 meters. That was a European record for a long time. I think still is. Aspiration, listen, I'd love to. That would be, you know, to cover both bases. That would be the ultimate dream. I love the long drive at the moment. You know, I'm sort of at the top of my game anyway. You know, I'd love to win a couple more world titles and get the World Long Drive Series up and running and really push that. So, you know, regardless of what does happen, the long drive has served me well. If I could get any sort of, you know, aspirations of going on tour, hell yeah, I'd love to as well. Cover both bases. Thanks for having me on. Bank robber. Best music on a road trip. Fleetwood Mac. First thing that popped in my head is Adam Sandler, but that's just because of Happy Gilmore. Who would play me? Brad Pitt. Current TV series, Game of Thrones. Tiger. South Africa. PJ Tour. Instagram. I would go against Tiger Woods at the Masters. Best score, which course? 7 under par through 9 holes at the Carrick in Scotland. Hi guys, I'm Joe Miller, and this is my 5 tips for getting more distance. Tip number 1 is always going to start with your setup, okay? You're going to start with the setup. The best chance possible to deliver the optimum launch. And that starts with the tee height. So always tee the ball nice and high. You never see a long driver tee the ball low. Number 2, okay, is to do the backswing, okay? On the way back, if you're a right-handed golfer, we're gonna load this right side as much as we possibly can. We're gonna put as much force into the ground on the right side. If you're a right-handed golfer, you almost wanna feel like that left leg isn't even on the floor, okay? You'll see a lot of long drivers, the left leg lifts up, right side is loaded. The more power we can put there, the more speed we're gonna generate. Number 3, high hands at the top of the swing, okay? Hands nice and high, big shoulder turn. Okay, we want to see them shoulders moving as much as we possibly can. Again, that is going to give you a much more speed when it comes to hitting the ball. When it comes down into the actual swing itself, we're going to want to tuck that right elbow in as much as possible, okay? This is going to produce lag on the club. The club head is going to lag behind, and that is going to unleash speed at the last second. And obviously, tip number 5 is swing it as fast as you possibly can. Tip number 5, obviously, swing the ball, swing the... What's that? Cut. Yeah. Hi guys! Hi guys, I'm Joe Miller, and you're watching the best sport in action on Quessy Sports.